Welcome everyone, this is Pilot Needles and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Terry Adwin.
Hi.
Ariandas.
Hey everybody.
And Sanswinda.
Hello.
And this week the big news is that the builds kept on breaking for Full Roar.
Yeah.
We might finally get a build tomorrow if the next build doesn't break also. We'll see. That's the problem you have sometimes with software. It sometimes doesn't cooperate. But that means that so far we do not have a build to talk about, so let's head into the LOTRO Beacon issue 47, where it looks like they're having a celebration. And
yep, that's what it looks like.
Yes.
That's the pretzel jerkin you get during the summer festival.
That may be the most interesting and awesome thing I've seen this week.
Actually, it looks like
pretzel jerkin.
Yeah.
It's a pretzel jerkin. Well,
that's awesome.
Actually, I think that's all festival, isn't it?
No, it's summer. Summer festival tunic and trousers of some sort. 2, 3, 4 years ago. I've got it. The dress is the dress that came out the same year, which I actually think also has a pretzel on it. Also, that's when you can get the pretzels to run around in your hand. And yes, it is summer festival.
Okay. Then let's head into the comment for the week. And the question is, what is the story behind your character's name? Is this something we've already all discussed at some point or the other? Yes.
Which, I'm like 60 something characters at this point, so it's like, which character? But yeah, I think I've talked about Terry Adwin's origin at some point, but it could have been on the other podcast too.
Oh, yeah, but is this a case where you have I know it's a different one of your characters who has a different origin story every time she gives one.
Well, that was... Okay, so Sarissa in Tales of the Free Folk is actually based on Sarissa in LOTRO. Sarissa in Tales of the Free Folk had different origin story every time somebody asked her where she came from. Sarissa in LOTRO actually got the name because it was a character that I played on the Mud, where I also played Terry Adwin's original incarnation. And it means something, and I don't actually remember what it means. But I thought it was... I actually have always thought it was a really pretty name as soon as I ran across it, so I liked it. But her last name is Reeve, Reeve. And the reason I picked that is I was looking for something for her last name that wouldn't necessarily immediately spark the idea of, hey, she's not necessarily up on the level, but still kind of not quite on the level. So somebody else that I knew suggested Reeve because it's a noble-ish title that's kind of not really, and apparently a bunch of them were corrupt or something. So I was like, yeah, it sounds good. So Sarissa Reeve. And she has, yeah, so, and then my Ariad burglar is her sister Cyrilla. And I think I was going to make them a brother at some point, but I don't know if I actually got around to it.
Well, I was just thinking though that considering how important the Reeves are in Rohan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the other reason why I ended up going with it, because you've got all those Reeves in Rohan. So it kind of recalls that maybe she's from there. She's not. It's funny too because I came up with the backstory that she tells, that she has a different backstory every time somebody asks her. Right around shortly before they got to level 50, because she's the character that I leveled up with a group. So my early experiences running her with a group was basically I did nothing, because the group had Guardian, Captain, it was Carve's group. It was Guardian, Captain, Minstrel, Runekeeper, and the fifth would rotate through like a lore master or some other OP class, and the burglar. So it has coming up to 50. First of all, has to be able to run up to the target to do anything with it, and by that time it's dead, and it's not going to out DPS any of the other characters in the group. I mean, the healing Runekeeper is doing more damage than she is. It's really sad. So I switched. So somebody suggested maybe I try switching her to Yellow Line. So I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Figure out because it was supposed to be like something we could do for heals, and God knows we could stand somebody who actually knew how to heal people, because the minstrel definitely was not that person in charge of the group. So I don't role play in LOTRO, but I end up giving my characters backstories, and it's not usually something that happens when I make the character. It's usually something that happens as I play them. I start to figure out who they are, where they're from, why they're doing what they're doing, with the exception of the High Elves, who don't really have backstories other than they were asleep for 3,000 years. I mean, do you really need more of a backstory than that? Obviously, Well-Dressed Killing Machine, he's anglicized his name, or westernized his name, or put it into common speech, because the language that they were speaking when he was still around is like not really being spoken by anybody anymore. So he's introducing himself that way because it's just how his name evolves over time.
Well, yeah, elven names do have a way of evolving
Right?
during their lifetime.
The words well-dressed killing machine, 3,000 years ago, that was like his name. That's the reason why well-dressed killing machine means what it means now. That's the story I'm sticking to. So yeah, stuff like that.
So Pineleaf, how did you come up with Pineleaf?
Oh, that one's rather mundane. Memoria was coming out, and I was trying to decide all right, what do I want to call him? Because obviously I was going to create a warden on when the servers went live.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to think, and I think at the time I was tending to give games that recalled the class I was playing. So therefore I said, okay, what would be a good name? Now I want a hobbit here, so therefore that would be botanical in nature. So therefore, what plant will recall a spear? And so the first thing that came to my mind was pine leaf. That spears are shaped like pine leaves.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And Sans, how about you?
It was it was a randomly generated name, and it was the first randomly generated name that I felt like I could come up with a backstory for if I needed to have one to play the game, because I kept reading Roleplay Encouraged and like trying to figure out like what that meant, and they're like, well, at least have a meaning or a reason for your character's name. So I decided that if anyone grilled me about it, I would say that she was sort of miracle baby. Her parents didn't know if she was actually going to survive the birthing process, and there was a huge storm outside, and they couldn't get the midwife there. And just as she was born, the wind stopped, and so she was Sanswinda.
Nice.
All right. How about you, Arian?
Well, I was curious to see if there were any kind of cool Old Norse names I could use, because I knew that Tolkien was kind of somewhat inspired by those. And the spelling of my name was already taken, so I had to adjust it a little bit, but the original was Aerindis, and I think it means something like eagle spirit or something. I just thought it sounded cool.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
It works.
Then let's head into our screenshot of the week, which is of some musicians playing near the Prancing Pony. And the screenshot was taken by SW Force 4 EU, which is quite a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a nice shot. They were able to get everybody in there pretty well.
And anyone else have anything they want to mention within this week's beacon before we head on?
Notice the strange assortment of wildlife in this screenshot. This looks like something that could be featured in a Critters episode.
It does. For people listening who don't have it up, there's what looks like maybe 2 or 3 squirrels, a rabbit, and maybe a red fox or something.
There are 2 white squirrels. There's a red squirrel. There are 2 white hares. I think it's either another rabbit or maybe a cat.
Yeah. But
and I'm not 100% sure what's going on in front of the Hobbit in green.
Yes.
I'm squinting at my screen trying to figure out. I don't know if that's like somebody else's pet, or if it's somebody passed out, like another Hobbit who had too much to drink and is passed out on the ground.
Can't be too sure. But yes, quite a collection there, that's for sure. So let's head into our sales for this week. And I was wondering if there is anything here that will fit Terry Edwin.
Yes, no. It's totally a Terry sale this week. Except for the free sample, because the free sample this week is Ranger Green Dye ×1 with coupon code Green Dye. I'm going to pass. However, we have 25% off shared wardrobe, cosmetic outfit slots. So if you don't already have all 7 unlocked, now is the time to do it. Mounted combat trait specs and cosmetic slots for mounts, and select cosmetics in the store. And as always, when they say select cosmetics, you always want to make sure that if it's a cosmetic in the store that's on sale, that it's not something you can get in somewhere else in the game. Because some stuff you can. And sometimes when they say store exclusive, it's not actually in a store exclusive appearance.
All right.
When in doubt, tweet at me.
When in doubt, tweet at Terry.
I have those answers.
Then let's head into our site news, and we shall begin with a couple of video presentations that were done related to the last week's first build of Update 22. So therefore, I did a little bit of a preview where I took a look at the fiddle and did a couple of quick stops at various different locations where you can go during your travels through Update 22 and in Northern Mirkwood and up in the Dalelands. And Anding had also done his, where he did a video on Northern Mirkwood, Dale, Lake Town, and more. So therefore, if you wish to see some videos, that'll give you some information on Update 22. Anyone here have anything they wish to add on Update 22 before we continue? I will take that as a no.
Well, I can't really talk about it because I'm not there, so.
Yeah. So therefore, let us head into another squirrely article on 99 Instances where he discusses the Halls of the Forsaken and the Inn of Night.
Yeah, so he manages to talk about my least favorite instance and one of my favorite instances in the same article.
So do you have mixed feelings about the article?
Inn of the Forsaken is actually my least favorite instance in the game. It is the one that if somebody says, let's go run it, I flat out nope.
Very well.
Why?
Of course. Because remember the burglar I was talking about? Well, at one point there were 3 of us. Somebody had the bright idea to run it on tier 2, and it did not go well. And there's video footage because circumventing one of the series of traps is the burglar goes in through the series of traps, hopes that nobody else springs the trap while you're going through the series of traps. And by the way, there's stuff that spawns in the middle of the trap that will kill you, or attempt to kill you as you're trying to navigate and very carefully not step on the floor that sends the spinning blades of death whirling around that will insta-kill you. And I'm movement challenged. I've mentioned before that I'm mildly movement challenged, so trying to navigate that as a movement challenged burglar while simultaneously trying to be in combat until you can get to the keystone and then push it so that it deactivates the thing so that the rest of your party can come kill the stuff before it kills you. Yeah. On the other hand, I wasn't the one who ended up getting trolled by the minstrel in that instance. That would be Carve, and there is video footage still archived on his Twitch site that involves, he was toward the end of the trap, and the minstrel goes in and reses him, still, in the trap zone, and then, before he's done resing, backed out and ran over one of the keystones to spring the trap again. So he died 4 times in a row. And I was only laughing because I wasn't the one that was happening to.
Oh.
Because I'm hiding in a corner going, yeah. Yeah.
So what you're saying is you should have run it with Pine Leaf and Finn. Because that was pretty fun.
Yeah, it just.
Well, Pine Leaf and Finn. Well, Pine Leaf at least wouldn't have been running it at tier 2, so therefore.
Well, that's true.
There would be that.
I love how Pine Leaf's talking about himself in third person. Well, Pine Leaf would.
Now, Squirrely does mention that this is a pair of instances where it's very common for someone to love one of them and despise the other. Because they're very polar opposite in their styles.
Yeah, Halls of Night actually, comparatively, is a breeze.
Right. And I have a preference to, I'd say, Inns of the Forsaken over Halls of Night, but then I don't think it's nearly as strong as Terry's, though.
I like Halls of Night because there's not spinning blades of death that will kill you if you step wrong.
Yes. Instead, there are tombs of infinite ghosts.
Well, you just have to be able to do enough DPS.
Now, did you go through there for the first time on your burglar at tier 2?
No.
Just checking.
Actually, my first time in the Halls of Night was solo on tier 1 on my champion. And I made it about halfway through.
Nice.
Yeah, she was only level 60 or so when I made the attempt. I could probably solo it now.
I would guess so.
It's better with friends, though.
And during this particular article, he also speaks about the MMO Holy Trinity of tank, DPS, and healer.
Mm-hmm. Which you don't really hear a whole lot about with LOTRO because there's so much interchangeability between the different classes and trait trees and stuff like that. With the occasional exception, like champion is always DPS and occasionally tank. So yeah, hunter is always DPS and occasionally tank.
Right.
Yeah.
Though apparently an annoying tank who runs around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the End of the Forsaken is one where it does pay to have 3 different types simply because there are different puzzles in there that are geared towards one of those 3 and requires one of the 3 basic styles of class. They don't do the exactly what they call for isn't exactly what the Holy Trinity is, but it's close enough that it comes out to be the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it by armor class, so light, heavy, and medium?
I think it's pretty much like light, medium, and yeah, medium and heavy.
I think so, yeah.
It's a little bit closer to how it actually operates. Unfortunately, I don't do the instance all that often, so therefore I can't remember, but yeah, a lot of them are based on the armor class rating. And therefore, after that, we head into another poem by the Antipodean writer, Melkor and the Imperishable Flame. Behold! Out of the imperishable flame Eru brought forth the Ainur, and they came. Of Valar 12, of Maya many more were born. So now the Ainur sing before Iluvatar, performing each alone for long ages, till the Ainur were shown the great music. Each Ainur of the mind of Eru knew apart, yet each did find that as they listened to each other, grew in understanding, the more they knew, the more completely fathomed and perceived the plans of Eru which he had conceived. At last Iluvatar gave them a theme. The Ainur sang, the melody did stream and overflow into the void and fill the empty space. Their music did instill a new creation there. Their harmony unfolded the great music, which as he intended filled the void. But thou, Melkor, what do you seek? For you're looking for the lonely implorations of the void. For what dark ends are your efforts employed? For Melkor wished that he might next create beings who live, whom he could designate as slaves unto his will. Forced unity would subsume and subdue the melody of Eru, so that Melkor might rule all. So it's seen how pride precedes the fall.
Well read, Fineleaf.
Thank you. So let's head into a new player question. I presume this is from Mariandus?
Yes.
This looks like a question for Terry.
It is. I just wanted to clarify. I think I've used shared wardrobe before, but can you kind of explain a little bit what that is? And is it similar to shared storage? How does it work?
It's actually cooler than shared storage because shared wardrobe, you don't actually need to keep the physical items.
Really?
Basically, yeah. So basically, when you put an item into the wardrobe, it basically just puts a cosmetic copy of the piece. So it strips all of its stats off of it, which is how you end up with light armor characters wearing medium or heavy pieces on occasion. That's how Sans can do her little Hobbit mini-me when she copies Terry's Swan Knight armor.
Yeah, because otherwise it wouldn't work.
Yeah, otherwise she wouldn't be able to wear the armor. And then it's available to everybody, all of the other characters on your server, so you can have a piece drop on one class that might not, on one character that might not necessarily work for that character, but you might think is perfect for another character. You can just drop it into a wardrobe, swap characters, and lo and behold, you can equip it in your cosmetic slot. Normally you can't equip something in a cosmetic slot if it's in your inventory, if it's not a cosmetic piece. So basically it turns whatever pieces of gear you drop into it into cosmetic copies.
Very cool.
And you don't need to keep the physical item on hand anywhere once you've put it in your wardrobe. The only thing is if you don't have a physical copy somewhere, if you eventually take it out of your wardrobe, it's gone forever.
Gotcha.
That's why I typically don't keep a lot of like weapons, shields pieces that I'm only going to use, like chest pieces that I'm only going to use once. That sort of thing doesn't clutter up my wardrobe because I instead try to keep a couple of slots free so that I can load them in as needed.
Mm-hmm. So could you, in theory, send cosmetics to other people and they use them and then send them back to you?
Yes. Provided it's not a piece that's bound to your character, you can basically loan out. This is why I have a ginormous collection of stuff that I can loan out, because you can just have something at random that you send to somebody else and they can drop it in their wardrobe and send it back, and then they are able to use it and dye it because you can dye things directly in the wardrobe too, which is awesome. So you can have the same piece of gear that's available in a bunch of different colors because you've just put a bunch of dyes on that piece of gear in the wardrobe. And then there's a little drop-down menu that lets you select which color you actually want.
And how can you access it?
You access it from the Vault Keeper, so you actually access it from the same place you access your shared storage.
Gotcha.
Yeah, when you access the Vault Keeper, there are 4 options that come up. One is the store, where you can buy things of gold, which is also a good thing if you want to send people money, or if you just want to, if you aren't VIP and you don't have the gold cap lifted, you can just kind of squirrel your cash away that way. As you're building up gold, you can actually buy, on a tangent, just buy lumps of coin, basically. Like, you know how in Hobbit presents they drop sums of coin that you can sell for money? It's the same concept in reverse. It's basically you're buying a lump of stuff that eventually can be cashed in for a certain amount of money.
So hey, we got 2 tips in 1 this week.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So there's that, your character vault, your shared storage, and your wardrobe. Those are the 4 options that come up. And then if you've got a house and you've lost the house, there's also escrow, but we're not going to get into housing stuff.
All right, that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry. So let's head into our week in LOTRO. And Terry, what were you up to when you weren't explaining about housing and shared work?
So last week somebody told me that I was going to enjoy the payoff for the Elf Allegiance thing.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so I did the next chapter of the Elf Allegiance thing. And Terry is kind of done helping the elves for right now. I did it, I actually did it not too long after we wrapped the podcast. I got to the next tier in the Allegiance and I unlocked the chapter and I was all set to go through it. And, there was this Balrog and it was standing around watching Glorfindel be awesome, which is probably great if you love elves. I don't. And I really didn't need to be upstaged by the elf on my champion. Because she gets upstaged by everybody as it is. Yeah, I'm currently kind of done helping the elves. I'm going to take a week off and not do dailies. Work on other characters because I just can't. I know I could switch to another allegiance. I'm sure I will get that comment from multiple people. It's like I'm doing it's a thing. Just let me do it my way. I'll get it done eventually. It's just going to take longer because elves. This whole allegiance has been a problem for me, honestly.
Elves.
But I'm glad it's not the last one because basically what's keeping me going through the Elf Allegiance at this point is that when I'm done, I can go to something else. If I had already done like the Dwarf and Hobbit allegiances in addition to the Man Allegiance and the Elf was the last one I had to do, I'd be done. I would be done helping elves. I would not be doing any more dailies. I'd be like, yep, I'm done. But I still have the Dwarf and the Hobbit stories to get through, and that's going to keep me going through the Elf Allegiance, just probably not this week. So last night during the field trip, I actually showed up to the field trip, but we didn't do a group thing because I'd had a bit of a rough week. There was some personal stuff going on with my family, and I was actually not able to really focus on the game because I was taking care of a sick relative and needed to be like on call, so I couldn't really get into anything group wise in the event that I got called away. But I ended up hanging out in chat and ran around in the Barrow Downs on Grey as a Shadow Upon My Heart, who is another of my high elves whose name, was Grey as a Shadow Upon My Heart way back in the day, except it meant something else, back when she was running around 3,000 years ago. But I was enjoying being an OP pew 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 because she's a hunter. And she made it to level 22 in the Barrow Downs, which is kind of impressive because I always forget at that level how fast you level if you're actually doing quests and things. Saved Lalia.
Only because high elf pew pew pew.
Only because I was talking about how I didn't have to save her, and somebody pointed out that if I went ahead and did the escort quest, it would actually get half of my other quests completed, and it did. Because this little suicidal hobbit runs at everything in the Barrow Downs, so while I had to kill that stuff anyway. So, and then Girls of Middle-earth did some more burgling in the Shire on our little baby Bergs. And then we went to Bree for some surprise blowing of kisses. And the reason why we went to Bree for some surprise blowing of kisses is we're out in the green fields. And there's 6 of us invisible. Because there were 7 of us, but Cabinet Dragon, also Ritalin, was never with the group. So there's 6 of us actually in the group. And then the 7th hobbit is off somewhere. And so we're all in stealth, and we come across, I don't know if it was a man or an elf or a high elf. It was a tall person. And he was doing something, but we happened to run across him as we're all invisible. Now, I don't know if people are familiar with what happens if you get surrounded by a bunch of things in stealth. You can't see them, is what happens. But depending on, I think he was an elf. I think we figured out that he was an elf. So because he's an elf, he's got a little bit higher stealth detection. So as we're running around him and through him, his stealth detection is basically his UI is pinging him with all these messages that you detect something being in stealth, which if you're in the moors is going to freak you right the heck out. But on landscape shouldn't really be that big a deal, especially in that area of the Shire, because really that area of the Shire, there's not anything running around in stealth other than us 6 hobbit burglars at the time. So he's like completely freaking out, and we're in voice chatting about this guy, and we're running through him and stuff, and he can't see anything. And we're actually having a great time and laughing about it. And so we surround him in a ring, all in stealth. And then I counted it down, and we all popped out of stealth and blew him a kiss, and then we went back into stealth and ran off. So then we decided to go do that in Bree.
Oh my gosh.
Because 2 years ago on a really early Girls of Middle-earth, which I can't believe it's been going on for 2 years, but yeah, 2 years, Girls of Middle-earth.
Whoa.
I know. We did a girls' Valentine's Day show where we had our kissing dwarves. So the dwarves were running around in either like pink or violet or red, and half of us were bare-chested and just like blowing kisses and flirting and you know, being dwarves. So we did that on the burglars. And we would pick a target, and we'd all surround him in a ring, and I'd count, and we'd pop out of stealth and blow kisses, and then or flirt or whatever, and then pop back into stealth when the cooldown expired. So, yeah. That was my week. Sans, how was yours?
That was pretty good with the girls. I finished running Mail in the Shire for the second time ever. And finished the prologue in the Shire for the first time in seemingly forever. I always get up to scary, and then I'm like, nah, never mind.
It wouldn't have anything to do with the spiders, right?
No, especially not if you accidentally hit a queen before killing all the other spiders in the area, even if you thought you did. Yeah, no, nothing to do with getting swarmed with a bunch of spiders. Yeah. Anyway, we finished that. And it was fun sneaking around with a bunch of burglars, and not just for the other players we encountered, but it was also kind of fun to just pop up suddenly around a goblin and then there was no goblin. Or pop up suddenly around a bear and there was no bear. Because all of us popping out of stealth at once did a lot of damage. So, that was pretty cool. And then, while Bull Roar was still up, I created a Bjorning with Cinders. We both created a Bjorning, actually. And I showed her how to get out of the intro and into the Isengard Tavern to level up instantly and get all our stuff. And then I showed her around the new areas before the servers closed. So that was really cool to get to run around with her and in bear form, and we got into some off-road adventures when we tried to follow the quest arrows, and I may have aggroed half the woods at one point. It was kind of fun. She found the res circle at one point when we got separated, and I couldn't get back to her because I had gotten ported halfway across the map, and she had gotten ported not halfway across the map. And
oh no!
Yeah, so it was interesting. And I'm really looking forward to it going live and being able to do that every day if I want to. Though maybe not on a newly created Bjorning. And then I finished the killing portion of the level 45 class quest on my Bjorning. And I need to go find the other things to turn in or go skirmish some more because once again, my account is almost out of marks and I've got a lot of medallions, but I'm almost out of marks again because I keep leveling up skirmish soldiers because I Aria'd characters and they all need skirmish soldiers leveled up to be able to skirmish with any chance of living. Well, except the hunter. My hunter that I Aria'd doesn't seem to have any problem when her skirmish soldier isn't quite up to par. But my squishy classes need their skirmish soldiers maxed, and so I keep running out of marks and then not feeling like skirmishing anymore. So.
Oh, well, can you... I'm trying to remember what the exchange rate is for turning medallions into marks. I know it's not particularly good, but...
Well, I probably could, but I spent so much of my early time out of medallions and wishing I had medallions to buy cool armor that I kind of don't want to do that just because I have medallions finally.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll probably do more skirmishing at some point, but no, the marks I have now are actually because I was running epic battles because I thought that would be a brilliant idea. And it was an okay idea. Maybe not my most brilliant, but I have a few more points towards my 200, so yeah, that was my week. Arundus, how was your week?
My week was alright. First, before I get into it, for the Girls of Middle-earth thing, what kind of reactions did you guys get from people when you would just pop out of stealth?
Not much of anything. It was very disappointing.
What? Oh well. So
we thought we were hilarious.
Oh, I wish I could go back and watch the stream. Is it still up, do you think?
Should be on the Signum U channel.
Well, I know what I'm doing later. Like I said, my week was pretty good. This didn't happen this week, but since it's been in recent history, I thought I would count it. I created a high elf hunter to group with somebody, and I've been absolutely loving it. I tried making a hunter a little while ago, but I think I picked the wrong skill line, or not the wrong skill line, but just or trait line, sorry. But just one that I wasn't super comfortable with. So through Sensewinda's recommendation a while back, I tried a different one, and I've been absolutely loving it. I've got her up to about level 19, and looking forward to grouping with that. I finally got Landrival Arundus past Volume 2, Book 4, Chapter 3, where she's been stuck because I haven't had a ton of time to play her. But I got past it. But the thing is, now I'm a little too far under-leveled to do Chapter 4, so I might have to do some skirmishing to continue. So there's that. Pineleaf, what did you do this week?
And we'll begin with Arcason. Since during the field trip we didn't do anything together, I decided to finally get around to finishing up Chapter 1 of the Black Book of Mordor on my Warden there. I've been doing little stuff up in Udun each time whenever we started there before we decided what we're going to do for that week. And of course, we always go around doing something, and I never gotten around to do it. But finally, I finished up doing the Black Book of Mordor up to there. So now I'm around, I believe, level 117, 107 or 108, somewhere in that area. and I finally finished chapter 1. I think I'm still a little bit on the squishy side, so I probably need a little bit more stuff to do in Udun before I'm all ready to head on to the next area there. On Langeville, my High Elf Warden finished up the level 45 last quest with a little help from Sans. Sans and I went together in order to get all our little last few things that we needed in order to finish this all up. Some of those mobs are a real pain in order to get solo. Going all the way up to Port Helg through all those Garradin in order to get Byrox. Whatever you need to get from Byrock. His spear, probably. And then on Langeville, my main warden there helped protect a flock of chickens, or whatever you call it, chicken. Anyway, this was the chicken run that was being done earlier today. That was right. That was Sigmund doing with Corey Olsen and friends, all going through there, and I believe we had one chicken that went link dead during the course. And we had one chicken that decided that it would be good to inspect the Moomox near the crossroads.
Oh no.
You never guess which chicken that was.
Oh
yeah.
No.
Of course. Which chicken would be crazy enough to want to inspect the local Moomox?
So you guys had, well, I was going to say fried chicken, but I guess it's more like squish chicken.
Yes, squish chicken instead. So yes, Corey did not quite make it all the way because
he was inspecting Moomax and
because
statues.
He was inspecting the Moomax and he didn't understand. And I believe it respawned and attacked and threw a circle right at the position he was in.
Ouch!
All in very quick succession. So therefore, he then brought up Wiggin. Not Wiggin. Wiggin.
Yeah.
So he came with a Wiggin and popped in on Wiggin.
Wasn't Wiggin his chicken too? Or was he on a different chicken? I couldn't see the names, so.
It was probably Wiggin's chicken. Yeah, it was also Wiggin's chicken. So therefore he went on Wiggin proper, and was able to get to the crossroads that way, and we was able to finish it then in the form of Wiggin so that he was able to get. Now, of course, he couldn't get past the Black Gate, but once we got to the Black Gate, then
Mordor doors.
Yeah, of course. The Mordor door brought him into Mordor, so he was able to get to Udun that way, and then able to resume the trip with us, and the rest of the chickens were able to all be let in and arrive, and we eventually went to as close as you can get up Mount Doom before the path is completely blocked by a crack with a great deal of lava in it. And a couple of course, the chickens decided that would be a perfect place in which to jump into the lava, and some of them found other ways in which to finish things up.
So chickens are doing swan dives now?
Always.
Gotcha.
Well, I don't know if it was quite a swan dive, but...
That was chicken dive.
Chicken dive into lava.
Yeah, so therefore, that was quite an event in there, and it took 6 hours to complete. The whole thing started around 11 o'clock where everyone started to gather. I think it was around 11:30 when we finally left Sanson's farm, and it was just at 5 o'clock when everything finished up. So 6 hours to get all those chickens and more. And when you consider that one of them was Corey Olsen...
It's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
And is this on the Signum U Twitch channel, or was this somewhere else?
Yeah, that was on the Signum U Twitch channel.
Yeah.
We currently have 18 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to join this illustrious rate of players and help support LOTRO players, simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you'll find rewards, including a mention on the podcast your choice, or you be a guest with us for an episode of LOTRO Players News. And this week we have a featured comment from Ella Hedor, And Hernandez, could you please read this?
Sorry, I keep forgetting I'm on push to talk. Yes, Ella Hedor said, to clarify about the change to promotion points. Currently, on Live, you can purchase multiple stacks of promotion points, but you can only apply 2 stacks, or 20 points, to your character. It appears SSG is now going to let us apply more purchase points to each character.
That refers to our discussion last week when we were trying to figure out what the difference was for promotion points. So yeah, you can buy them in quantity on Live, but you can only apply 20 points. Now you'll be able to apply up to 100 points.
And what do these promotion points do?
When you collect 100 of them, you get a trait point.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
They also help you be able to complete epic battles successfully. And
Yeah,
before you've earned them, the things will mock you and they'll say, you need this item to complete this battle successfully at the highest levels. But, no, you can't use it. Seriously.
Sans, do you speak from experience with this?
Yes. I decided to take a new alt through epic battles who hadn't been through this week, and I had forgotten just how frustrating that is when you're at the right level to be doing them and you can't pick up anything. You can't move anything, you can barely use anything, and they're like, hurry, you're gonna fail this part of it, and you're like, yep, totally gonna fail that part of it, just like I was level 10 because I can't do anything.
If you would like to send us an email, you can send it to podcast@LOTROplayers.com. You could also follow us on Twitter, the Players Alliance @PlayersAllied, LOTROplayers @LOTROplayers, Ariandis @Ariandis, Maven @Tolkien Maven, Pineleaf @Pineleaf Needle, Sensbunda @Sensbunda, and Terry Edwin @TerryEdwin. The Players Alliance has 3 live shows every Monday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We have DDO Players News. Every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have LOTRO Players News. Every other Thursday at 9:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have XP Quest. We also have a recorded show on the first Tuesday of every month at 9:30 p.m. usage time, Chromatic Mix, which is a new pre-recorded video game music podcast. And this will air on Mixer, and then we'll release a podcast version soon afterwards. You can join us for our live shows at LOTROplayers.com/live, and that's all for tonight. And this is Pineleaf Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.